Right, welcome back, viewers, for another edition of Heads Up. And gee, it's a week, almost a week since the big race at Hastings last week, where, I got myself out of the chair. Don't know if you were goat, but you're on course, weren't you? I think, but it was just I thought Springtide was going to do it for Sanford Chrissy and the whole stable. It was just really exciting race. You were there. What was the vibe like amongst the locals there?
Yeah, obviously, a great finish. You can't take anything away from Call Sign Mav. He had to work overtime to cross those other horses to get the front. I think you've got some sectional analysis that was probably quite telling in the end result. But for a first ride in a Group 1, I thought Sarah McNabb positioned Springtide beautifully, waited, came at the right time, and probably was going to get there maybe at the 50-metre mark, but the skill of Jonathan Riddell being able to lift that horse over the line. Sarah's like, she looked up and she said, "Oh, anyone but Jonathan." And he was roaring at his horse to get it to just pick up that last 20 metres, and that was, I guess, the telling difference that he held on by a head. But no, good run by Springtide, first time in a Group 1, and all things being equal, he'll have a gallop tomorrow. And if he comes through that well, he'll be nominated late nommed again for the second leg, the Windsor Park Plate. But yeah, what did the sectionals tell you about that race, Neil?
Yeah, well, definitely it told the story because you could see Jonathan burnt to lead. If he wanted to get the lead, or be on it early on. And from the 800 to the 400, he was able to back off. And I think from memory, the sectionals were 12.7 and or 12.8 and 12.4, which were one of the slowest sectionals through the day, barring the middle distance race. And that was the winning of the race. So I thought, you'd think Springtide was going to go past Call Sign Mav, 150 out, but just the fact that he was able to back off there, give him a bit of a breather. He had that kick left in the locker just to hold out Springtide, and that's what won the race for him. Just that nous of being able to rate a horse perfectly at the right time got him home. But I was hoping Springtide was going to get up anyway from a pocket, but not only for the stable. Chrissy was going, Bella Conte, wasn't that a one? Wasn't that a great ride? Well judged by coming through the inside there.
As the great man Tony Lee says, luck's a fortune, and could have been an unlucky fifth or sixth if the captain just appear on the rails there for Sarah to duck down. I think it helps that the filly, she's only 410 kilos. We've talked about that previously on the podcast. She's quite nimble on her feet, and she could duck through that little gap and still accelerate up the rail there to nab Imperatriz and Mustang Valley. And no, great thrill. Obviously, that's Chrissy's first Group winner, and had a listed winner at Wanganui with Belaconte at the previous start. So, yeah, no, good day. And one thing to just mention about those two horses, Belaconte and Springtide. Belaconte, $11,000 purchase as part of a package deal with her and her mother, bought by Ben Kwok, a Singaporean businessman. And Springtide, $5,000 purchase on Gavel House after he had 3 starts. So it just shows you can find a good horse from anywhere. You don't necessarily have to pay $4.1 million, Neil. Yeah,
no, well, that's, if you can find a bargain like that. A lot of horses don't do as well as Springtide and Belaconte, obviously, but if you're willing to do their homework and buy right, it can happen. So that's great for racing, and great for his back pocket too, obviously.
Yeah, the beauty of you just never know, do you? You never know where a good horse is going to come from.
Yeah,
it was great. Just on that, obviously, Avantage was 4.1 million because of the breeding proposition and potential she's going to have. But amazing price, isn't it? And just another little boost for the industry to see that sort of money being paid, and that will go into her syndicate owners' pockets, and no doubt they'll reinvest somewhere down the line in the industry. So good to see.
Too right. Other good performances there on Saturday, but we'll touch on those later on. Penrith, the lucky punter who won the multi last week. We got up the first leg with Springtide top 4, but Penrith, they tried, but not hard enough.
No, they were a bit flat, weren't they? I thought they'd really, I thought Parramatta would be the team that would struggle, but no. Penrith only snuck in, and they're probably a bit lucky to win and that. So yeah, apologies to the multi-winner from last week. We couldn't get the job done. We go back to the drawing board, and I think we'll go straight into the sports bet this week. Seeing we're talking about Penrith,
Okay.
and we're obviously talking about Melbourne Storm as likely NRL champions for the season. These two meet in the second prelim final, 6 p.m. Saturday, and no surprise that I'm tipping the Storm to put Penrith away, cover the 8.5 point start. So Storm minus 8.5, $1.90. Penrith backing up again. Storm had that week off, and I think Craig Bellamy, he knows how to get his troops ready for the big game.
Yeah.
I just think they'll be too good for Penrith, and will do the job comfortably enough. So let's hope we can get the sports tips back on the right note, and they've been a winning note. So that's what we'll go with. Do you want to do the multi question now, or
before that, I've got two multis because I took your advice about Melbourne going all the way. I've got two multis finishing on them to win the final. I'm tossing out with a cash out on one, or just ride the. Yeah,
don't cash out?
I'm not going to cash out. No,
Have you got
shitty bloody cash out too?
Have you got Classic Legend in any of your multis?
No, just both finishing on.
Well, it trialled this morning and it went well. So
yeah,
all things progressing well for Classic Legend towards the tilt at the Everest. What's that? Probably only 3 weeks away now.
Yeah,
Picked up pretty quick.
What's his odds?
I haven't looked actually.
Right.
Actually, it must be 4. Yeah, no, it's be only 3 weeks away.
Yeah,
I think he's about $6, something like that.
sounds about right. Well, he's been there, done that, hasn't he? So he's an obvious choice, and track should be okay. If it's not.
Oh well, we look forward to riding those multis home with you, Neil.
Bloody hell, looking forward to it. Also, the other great sporting event started kicking off tomorrow morning, the Ryder Cup, one of the best sporting events of all time, I reckon. Every 2 years,
Well,
just something unique.
You've done your homework on the golf. You love your golf. Who's going to win the Ryder Cup, the USA or Europe?
There's not even a question. It's just the USA will win. I just can't see them losing. But stranger things happen. But how could they beat them? They've gone man for man, except for John Rahm and who's the other European. There's only 2 decent players in them. The rest, man for man, they should beat long term over 3 days, and the singles as well. That they should beat them hands down. The course is set up for them lengthwise. The rough isn't very long, so they're longer hitters. And home ground, I think 6 of the last 7 home teams have won the Ryder Cup. The only query is the weather. If the wind and rain came, that would obviously suit the Europeans because they're used to that. But I thought $1.50 with $1.60 earlier on Ryder Cup, I thought it was silly money for virtually a racing certainty. Well, almost a race. You put the kibosh on them, but how do they beat them? I just can't see it happen. Anyway, with a good multi with Melbourne.
Team golf can, it's a different kettle of fish. I think the USA, they're a team of stars.
Yeah.
Can a team of stars be the star team? And that's the question. I'm not convinced. I'm going to go against you, actually. I've just decided I'm tipping Europe.
Your price up.
Chocolate fish?
Easily a chocolate fish, maybe a peanut slab as well, if you want.
Okay. Look forward to it when we can finally
back
on a racetrack and to have crowds. It's not looking good, I have to say, just while we touch on that subject. I think it's pretty much a fait accompli that both the remaining days of the Hawke's Bay Carnival will be closed door affairs, so very unfortunate for the club. Obviously, Livermore Classic Days, their big revenue spinner for the year. So you just never know with the alert levels, but I guess looking at how things seem to be panning out, it's not looking good. So
I thought the way things were tracking, Auckland could go back to level 1 Wednesday week, which level two, sorry, Tuesday week, which means the rest of the country can go to level 1, barring whatever happens.
Well, we'll have a chocolate fish on that too, shall we?
No.
Don't want to be the pessimist, but yeah, hey, time will tell.
You are being a pessimist. Be an optimist.
I need to break out of that.
Yeah.
Let's talk Bowringer Engelheim metric mile, shall we, Neil?
Oh,
Race
yes.
7
Yeah.
at Awapuni tomorrow.
Yeah. Good race, isn't it? Going to be a heavy 10 track, I think. Yeah, it is a heavy 10 track. Gee, you're going to have Quiz Kid leading, Deerfield to be up there. Rotani maybe, Tappy's one. It's going to be a reasonable pace. It's always a good race. Run Like Boo could be up there as well, but Francesca's come in from 330 to 290, which is always a good indicator from that. Is it because of scratchings? Maybe not.
No, not really, no.
Syracuse wouldn't take a lot. But yeah, Francesca, the way it won at Tirapa fresh up, and she's definitely a sort of a stakes group horse in the making. So her biggest test so far. Second up's always a query, but the lightweight, top stable. She's got to be hard to beat, but you wouldn't put your house on her at that price, would you? Bowden, putting money for it fresh up, but disappointing on a decent track, had its chance, but what are your thoughts anyway?
Yeah, it's a tough race, very tough race. Yeah, I thought maybe Quiz Kid, if he got a soft lead, Daniel Johnson could control the speed. Might be too good for them. I think it's, it's performed at the track before. Will handle the heavy 10 conditions. So yeah, I'll if I was forced to tip one, which you're forcing me to, I'll tip Quiz Kid.
Quiz Kid, yeah, even room for an upset there. Deerfield is much of a chance, you reckon? Dropping back.
Warrior, he was disappointing, obviously, in the Tarzina last week. He should run better than that. He won't know himself carrying 55 and a half. Well, maybe the last 2 or 3 seasons, the last time he's carried a weight like that, and it was only once, was in the Thorndon Mile when he ran third to Melody Bell in a Group 1. So this isn't a Group 1 field. So $41, yeah, definitely a touch of overs there and worth throwing into your combinations. He should run better than he did last week, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he could drift in the market too, even from 41s and 750 outfielder. So yeah, no, he'd definitely be in my trifectas and first fours. It's that sort of race where you could sort of anchor, say, Francesca, which I think's got to be a top 3.
What about the mainlanders? Obviously, they're coming in force. Rotani and Tappy's one from the Taplin stable. Both were in good form over the Rickett and Winter Carnival, so wouldn't be out of it, you wouldn't have thought. And obviously, Chris Johnson coming up for the ride, so you must. It's worth the effort to stay associated with Tappy's one. So you wouldn't have them out of play, but hard to line up that form compared to some of the sort of the form in the north. So always good when the Southerners come up and have a crack.
Too right, yeah. And I think they've got a big chance. They're fit, in form, handle a heavy track. So, and the rest are like Francesca second up, Bowden second up. They've got a fitness edge, a real hard fitness edge, and the rest are like Crowning Star in the market, second up. So just from that point of view, you've got to have them in. So, intriguing race. Yeah. Races at Matamata tomorrow. It's going to be a very heavy 11 track. Someone I know who lives close there said they had 60 mils of rain during the week. So it's going to be a hard slog there. So look for real wet trackers. I see Gold Watches kicking off too. Query on a real deep, heavy track. Maybe something could beat him.
I wouldn't be surprised to see it scratched, actually.
Well, he's got to kick off somewhere. So he may start, I think. I've got a contact there I can find out. And I'll put it up. I might even give him a call and just see what his thoughts are. But have you heard he might scratch if it's going to be?
Yeah, it was suggested he might scratch. Might being the operative word. But as you say, yeah, if you want to get to the Copeland's Mile, I think though, when you're 90 or 91 years old, you've learned that a thing called patience. So he will just place the horse. Cliff Goss, we're obviously talking about the trainer. He knows that horse inside out, and he won't run it unless he's happy to do so. And if the track conditions don't suit, he might just keep it aside, and he might change the plans and not end up going to Riccarton and just play the patience game. And I think, no secret that Jonathan Riddell rates this horse extremely highly. So, I think he's a very good horse.
Oh, yes. You don't see horses finish like he does against good horses, in the last 200 meters, 100 meters. That one at Tirapa when I was there, I thought that's a real class horse. And, that was terrific. So he may go to Hastings, I think, with a better services there. more than likely. So we'll see anyway. Last week's question, we had a first.
Yeah, we stumped everyone. A horse
Yep.
that ran in the Mudgeway. Now, it was a little bit tricky because the Mudgeway that year was run at Wanganui, with the Hawke's Bay track out of action. And trackside was showing all the old replays and watched the race. I think Miss Potential won that particular edition. And a horse called Starbow, locally trained horse from memory, ran in the Mudgeway that year. Wanganui ran last. But then 2 years later, came out and won the Great Northern Hurdles. If you remember, Laura Tunnell, I think, lost her irons maybe with 1 or 2 fences to go, but it didn't stop Starbow from storming through the middle of the pack on a pretty good track from memory, and blousing them all in the Great Northern Hurdle. So a bit of an unusual sort of combination, those 2 races, but I thought your clues last week would have given it away, but clearly not, Neil. So we need to, what are we going to do? Are we going to double up, are we? Double
Okay.
up?
Might as well. Okay, let's double up. $40 multi next week. If you can get this question right. And what's it going to be? Easy, hard? Let's find out. What's it going to be?
Well, probably more on the harder side, potentially.
Mhm.
But some people will remember, and I know one of our listeners will definitely know the answer. 2009, the winner of the Muriel Metric Mile, as it was known then.
Oh, yeah.
Who was that winner of the 2009 Muriel Metric Mile? Ridden by David Walsh, trained by Robert Prescott. There's enough clues there to make it pretty easy, I would have thought.
Yeah, and I think he blitzed the field, didn't he, too? He won that easily, so that shouldn't be too hard to get. So 027 352 6402, FormPro at formpro.co.nz by Tuesday night. Get into it, and $40 multi up for grabs next week. Right. B&Bs, brickbats and bouquets.
Yeah, well, obviously, one of the other, probably the most talked about performance on the day at Hawke's Bay was Sakura Blossom winning the special conditions maiden, the second race on the card, I think it was. And yeah, phenomenal performance to bomb the start like it did. And then she still was able to really sprint that last 200 and made up a huge amount of ground to get over the top. And I think, what did Tony say? He said, they can't do that, but it just did. So
that's right. It was a great commentary. Yeah,
that was impressive. And by the sounds of it, I don't think it's going to be sold. So we might see more of her on the New Zealand racetracks, which is a good thing. We need exciting horses that bring interest to the game and people out to see when we're allowed to go out. So I thought that was a good result. And just before you go through your B&Bs, Neil, update on a friend of the podcast, Chelsea Burden, apprentice jockey who we've had on the show previously. She was off injured and out of the ranks due to a fall at Waverley last November. Good news, Chelsea should be back riding by early November. She's switched and now is apprentice to the Sean Ritchie stable. So good to have Chelsea back in the riding ranks.
Yeah, true, right. I'm looking forward to that. Remember, she had a fall at Tauranga too, so she's had a fair share of downs.
That was shied sort of over that crossing
in the prelim, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to give a bouquet to the connections of Sakura Blossom. Do you know any connections? Any chance?
I think it's just one Asian gentleman from memory.
Oh, yeah. So I thought it'd be quite good to get the owner or one of the owners on there and just say thanks very much for keeping a horse like her who's obviously got a great future ahead of her in the country. Obviously, as she progresses, they may look at overseas races in Australia, but it's good to see stake money still well behind Australia to keep a horse here and to race it just for the sheer enjoyment, because if you've got plenty of money, you aren't going to worry too much if there's another zero on your bank account. Just to have a go, and if you can go and see your horse race, which we were hoping to do this week when a certain filly, a little princess, is going to start at Waverley on Thursday, which we must touch on too, because I know a lot of people do ask me about it, and it'd be good to touch on her in a sec. But it's good to see a horse like that being kept in the country. But let's mention Princess Biddy. She's starting at. You can tell us, but you've got closer connections.
The plan is to run her at Waverley in the maiden 3-year-old 1400. Could come up a reasonable field. I believe a horse called Rue Claire who
Oh,
ran
yeah.
third on debut at Hara, has got a bit of a rap on it, will be going to that race. So, Biddy ran third in her debut in the Wanganui Guineas. I think better track conditions will suit. So if it gets back to a dead six sort of thing, I'd say that'd be an ideal surface for her to excel on. She had a little jump out at Wanganui this morning. She's come through that well, it seems. So she'll progress on. I think Neil, I think you'll have her as your top pick that day, just quietly, and I don't think you'll be too far off the mark.
That's good
Are
to
you
hear.
excited? You're an owner in the syndicate. You haven't owned a horse for a few years. You must be excited.
Oh, I'm just, because the story has been through Facebook, being able to see her virtually as a wingling right through to racing with regular videos and comments about the ups and downs she's had. It's just great to see how they develop mentally, physically, and she's got that will to win, which is a huge plus. She's going to go out and give it everything, but she loves racing and beating other horses. That's half it, not half it.
She doesn't just like beating them. She doesn't just like beating them, Neil. She likes kicking them, biting them.
Huh?
She sees a horse come up towards her, like a horse after the line today. A horse came up on the inside. It was probably 10, 15 meters past the pace, and her ears went back again, and she thought, I'll keep racing now. I've won the heat, but I'm not even going to let you pass me in as we're sort of slowing down. So she's got a good competitive spirit. So hopefully that holds her in good stead for a racing career. So on the basis of what she's done so far, you'd like to think she'd be hard to beat, but it's a funny game, as we all know.
Another interesting thing too I found through the video post was after her Wanganui placing, how her coat was starting to turn. You can see a lot of her coat coming out. Chrissy showed a close-up video, and I don't know, you've seen it recently, obviously today, and how's her coat looking now? Is it all come out?
Yeah, no, even better. Yeah. The shoe, well, I was going to say she'll look like a different horse, obviously not a different horse, but an improved horse. And the coat does tell you a lot about a horse often as to how forward it is and where it's at in its preparation. So I think, that's sign is looking good. She's definitely coming, the coat's coming through. So everything's looking good, but hey, we're still 6 days out. A lot of things can change, but fingers crossed that she does her big band of owners proud, and it'd be nice to see her break maidens at her second start.
Maybe we should ask the TAB to open a futures market on that maiden race for next Thursday, because what a great multi it would be with Melbourne Storm, Ryder Cup, and the Princess Biddy. It's just retire on Friday.
No, it'll be exciting, and then just disappointing, obviously, with the situation with COVID. We can't get a lot more of the ownership team on course, but I'm sure you'll all be cheering on from your various vantage points around the country.
Yeah, true right. Anyway, I'm looking forward to catching up with you when I have that peanut slab. I love peanut slabs too. The bigger ones, not the small ones, the bigger ones. You get 2 sizes, I think, now. So
okay,
so
we'll see.
We can always buy me 2 if you can't find the bigger ones. Okay, right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Looking forward to the Ryder Cup. Looking forward to the big race tomorrow. Maybe Deerfield could be our tip of the roughie of the week. I do like it for a rough place bet as well. So, everyone, good luck and good punting.